Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing something new. I'm doing a ranking of my favorite Destroyer albums. Destroyer, one of my favorite artists, and I felt a bit guilty for not including them or him at all in my vinyl tag video. So I'm trying to make up for it, and I'm a bit of a completist when it comes to collecting Destroyer's albums. At least I lack only one of them, which I know was released on vinyl at some point. Yeah, so I'm a huge fan, and this will be my personal favorites. There's 15 albums, as I mentioned, I think, and for me they are mostly great. I don't think there's a bad Destroyer album. They have probably maybe 1 6 and the rest is 7 upwards, and a few 10s in my book. So it's hard to make a list when they are all sort of great albums, but we're gonna try. And let's start with the one that was never released on the vinyl, which was an album called We Build Them a Golden Bridge. This was released in '96 and was also the debut of Destroyer. The thing is with this one, it's very lo-fi. It's kind of rough around the edges, and sounds a bit like something your bipolar uncle would record in his attic or something. But if you're open to it, I think some of these songs might easily get stuck in your head. First, promising debut. You can already uncover that there's a theft for writing catchy hooks and tunes, and so there's a lot of promise in the first release of Destroyer. Some highlights on this record would be Jay Taylor, a song called Jay Taylor, and also the song called Streets Fire. But as I mentioned, it's kind of challenging and hard to recommend. Still like it. So that's number 15 on the list. Number 14 was the follow-up to that album, and it's called City of Daughters. So this was released in '98, I believe. So gone are the lo-fi aesthetics. I mean, it still has kind of a homemade feel, even if it's probably recorded in some studio. It has a lot of the charm that was on the initial release, but a bit more refined. So the sound is very dry and nice. It's mostly Dan with his acoustic, nylon acoustic, and his songwriting abilities, So whimsical and cool songs, catchy melodies. Absolutely something I would recommend to check out if you are interested in Destroyer. Some highlights would be the songs No Ceasefire, Dark Purposes, I Want to Cyclops, and perhaps the best song he had written up to this point, The Space Race, which is insanely catchy. So that would be the one to check out if you're gonna check out a track from this. Some simple effects and rain effects and stuff on the production that kind of adds something to the mood of the record, but it's very simple in style and a bit primitive, but the songs are catchy. Next on my list is actually the newest Destroyer release. Maybe that's a bit surprising. So it's Dance Boogie. The reason for this being this low on this list is of course, it's not easy to explain that, because I think it's a very decent album. The first single, Bologna, I thought it was fine. He topped that one with Hydroplaning Off the Edge of the World. That song is quite interesting in the structure, because you kind of have a shift very early in the song, and 80% of the song feels like the outro of the song, where you get spoken poetry stuff that's developed in a lot on the latest few releases. And I find that that type of approach works very well on that particular song. But there are some offbeat and random moments during this record, I have to say. It's not very immediate. You have songs like Sun Meets Snow. That took a while for me to appreciate it. It's just about getting accustomed to what they're trying to do on this one. And I feel like the songwriting or the crafting of the song is building around moods and cool rhythms and drum beats, and it has kind of a smoky jazz club atmosphere. Also, it's a darker and brooding for the most part, except perhaps the song Cataract Time, which is probably the highlight on the record. But on the record, it also feels like the odd track out that, doesn't quite fit in with the mood of the other tracks, but it kind of lifts your spirits a bit and bring it up a little in mood. So absolutely one of the best songs Dan have done in recent years, I guess, at least on this album, because there was a lot of great ones on the previous one. So all in all, an enjoyable album, but not very high on my list. Dance Boogie. The next one is a bit risky for me to include on this rundown because it's not an official studio release or anything. It's a little tape that Dan made in '97, sometime around the end of the '90s. And there was a tape that he just made for submitting to a compilation album at a label or something like that. And he said, just pick one of these tracks, and did it a bit haphazardly, according to him. But somehow this got released and is actually on vinyl. This is the only one I don't have to show, except for Golden Bridge, which was never released. Anyway, this is pretty great if you have the patience for it. We're back to the lo-fi aesthetics. It's a cassette recording, I guess. So maybe I have listened to it so much that at a certain point in my life that I kind of got used to how quirky and bad it was, and maybe I won't have the same experience with it if I discovered it today. But at the time when I discovered it, it kind of I was interested in lo-fi recordings and home recordings with my little Zoom recorder and stuff, so I find it kind of inspiring, and I bet this could be something inspiring for aspiring musicians that don't have all the recording gear in the world to, be inspired by, because it's quite unique and captivating at points. But I have to warn you that it's an obscure thing, but if you have patience for it, it's well worth checking out. There's a lot of silliness, but you can hear the talent in the craft for writing great hooks and catchy songs already here. Probably the highlight, as I recall, would be the song "The Terror Serves a Purpose." Pretty cool stuff. My number 11 pick is Poison Season, the 2015 record. He returned with this after his big success with Kaput, of course. Took him 4 years, I think, to follow up the studio album, and it was not Kaput the sequel, luckily. It was a different style for him. And in the meanwhile, before he released this, I will like to mention this EP that he did, which is called 5 Spanish Songs, which is just accessible, stripped down acoustic Dan and his guitar singing Spanish songs. And there are 5 of them, and they are pretty awesome. My favorite would be Bye Bye, which is something of an all-time favorite. And I think if Dan had done an entire album in this style, I think it actually could be a huge success for him. If he wants to and has the ability to do so, I think, because this was very promising indeed. And back to Poison Season. So Poison Season is a popular album by Destroyer. It is a mixed bag for my taste. Initially, I was just very hyped for it because it has had a lot of beautiful string arrangements on some singles, Girl in the Sling, and on the album, of course, you have Bangkok, which is a very melancholic and a beautiful song, actually. And those kind of songs pointed in the direction of, oh, is Destroyer doing his, or is Dan doing his Scott Walker album or something? And I kind of wish that he did that all the way with this one. So there's tracks that kind of takes me out of that mood, melancholic mood. There's songs on here that obviously feels like they're 70s soundtrack inspired or something. And yeah, I think it just goes in too many directions and tries a bit too many things. But there's a lot of material, there's a lot to like, especially the song Times Square, which is a classic, of course. One of Dan's best songs of all time, if you ask me. So, yeah, just a little bit of a mixed bag to be higher on the list. Number 10. A pretty recent release, 2022. He put out this Labyrinthitis album, and I liked it very much. Surprising to me in recent interviews now, it seemed that Dan is disowning it a little, or at least as aspects of this record, because as he said himself, there was experimentations and stuff that kind of shocked him. So how he put a record like this together, later records, he works with John Collins, who does a lot of the studio instrumental stuff, and then Dan is reacting to it and put its vocals and lyrics and on top of things, and kind of hear where John Collins takes it, and he took it in some weird places, but actually I think that's the charm of, or the point of the record, it's something different. So it starts up with a song called It's in Your Heart Now, I think, and it sets the mood perfectly. A very beautiful, Cure-esque, long, instrumentally driven song. It takes you right in, and then the highlights are probably the song I mentioned, June, that goes off in this experimental spoken poetry passage where, with a lot of effects and weird things going on, dance vocals and stuff. It's funky at times. It's just cool and exhilarating. Listen, and it has a clear identity to me. It kind of feels like its own thing, and there's instrumental passages and things going on. So it's just engaging. An engaging listen for me, and it doesn't feel like two-headed like Poison Season did. So I think more clear in the vision than what Dan believes himself. But yeah, it's an album I liked very much. Next on my list is a divisive record for sure, Your Blues. And what's crazy about this is that he, or off-putting to some, I guess, is that he did a lot of recording with MIDI instruments like trumpets and stuff like that in MIDI. If you can look past the aesthetics, and because they are kind of primitive compared to what he's able to do on his recent releases. So look past the aesthetics, and you will find that there are really great songs on this. To mention a few, we have Notorious Lightning, very theatrical and a cool song. The Music Lovers, Mad Foxes, and then Certain Things You Ought to Know, which is just a beautiful melancholic tune. And What Road is also very cool and catchy. So this is back in the day still, where he was writing more with his guitar and thought about song structure and in a different way than just reacting to the music. And sometimes I miss that, the more zany, out there, intense type of approach to his vocals and the songwriting and stuff. So yeah, intense, manic, triumphal, cool tunes, trying out various stuff, and that's cool in a very long career that like this. You have to try different things to have this level of longevity and keep the fans interested and confused. Number, I'm not sure what number I was at right now. Your Blues was number 9, and then we're at number 8, which is a record called Trouble in Dreams. Not entirely sure when this was released now. I think it was 2009. If not, there's a correction. I find it a bit hard to explain what this record was or my feeling about it, because that has changed over the years. When it came out, I think I was a bit disappointed because he was really on fire on the records that came before that. So there's some fine crafted songs here, a lot of energy. That's the real reason why this is a cool record. It's rocking, and yeah, like I said, on Your Blues, Dan is sounding theatrical and intense, and even drunk on some tracks, perhaps. Maybe not the most memorable songs of his career, but there are quite a few great ones on here. Highlights would be My Favorite Year from Hans, Libby's First Sunrise, to mention a few of them. And this is where he closes the book on Old Destroyer, as I said, and to become more refined and subtle in his approach, I think. So it was a very fun time to be a Destroyer fan around this era. Moving along, my next pick, number 7, is this. Also quite a divisive record. It's called This Night, and I think it's great. Pitchfork, back in the day, they gave it like a 4.4 and pointed to various reasons. It's too long. The songs, are just going on and on. Should be more editing, sloppy strumming on the guitars and stuff like that. But for me, it's kind of the reasons why I dig this album so much. It has a very certain mood to it, and yeah, you have this room sound, room acoustics, and washed out guitars and vocals, and I find it to be great. The one time I remember this really clicked. I was doing some chores around the house in another room, and while listening to it, and I kind of focused on the guitar, and it sounded like, oh, Destroyer is playing in my living room or something, and that's a quality. It's very natural sounding, very lively, and have some excellent songs as well. My favorite Destroyer song of all time, I'm going to say it, could be Goddess of Drought. It's a melancholic masterpiece in my book. And yeah, sure, it's long, and sure, it's repeating a lot of the same choruses that might be uninteresting after a while, but Dan is doing his weird impulses with his vocals and stuff, so he keeps you engaged. But this one, I think it really depends on your listening conditions. So if you're very paying attention to the songwriting and stuff, you might not think it's very good. But if you just have it on the background while doing something, and yeah, I think you're gonna find this a perfect soundtrack for a Sunday or something to have in the background. So one of the highlights for me. Next is a bit more of a straightforward album. Earlier in the career, around the millennium 2000, I think it was released, and it's an album called Thief, of course. there are some excellent songs on this one for sure. So it's an easy listen, something to put on when you have friends over or something. It's a simple Destroyer album, but also quite, as you would expect, catchy, and kind of reminds you of the obvious influences. Syd Barrett and Malcolmus and guys like that. And yeah, it's just mind-blowing the abilities the guy have to write catchy tunes. City of Daughters, Mercy, We Had the Right, Queen of Languages, In Dreams, Destroys Temple. I think it's a very enjoyable listen all the way through. Another underrated album, I think, Ken. It was released in 2018, and it's a very easy listening late Destroyer album. It's not a lot of crazy things going on, I think. I kind of fell in love with this one summer. I remember when I was walking to work a lot, and I just kept going back to it. It's kind of cinematic on some level. Beautiful opener, Sky's Grey. That's a cool one for sure, but I think the quality with this album is that it's so consistently great, actually, and it didn't get enough praise and recognition, this album. So, and what I like, it's kind of feels like it's pretty instrumentally driven, and that Dan is not in center stage, but he is so good at finding his place with this material, with his vocals, and what to do with the material. So so that's cool, and I also appreciate this vinyl release. I think it had like a 7-inch that included a few of the tracks stripped down on an acoustic, because at this point in the career you kind of missed the old days where he was more doing the guitar acoustic stuff. So that was a nice thing on this release. That was number 5. And number 4 in my list is also kind of a late career highlight. How We Met was released in the start of the pandemic, at least the lockdown and stuff, around March 2020, of course. And one of my favorites. I think it's so great because it works so well, and it's going in various directions on this one. So when I first heard the first single, I was like not quite on board. So we're doing like disco now or something, and then I kind of realized that's probably one of the coolest singles Destroyer have released in recent years. It just doesn't happen to everyone, I think it's called. This album feels like it has a story to tell. You have the upbeat disco-inspired songs, and then you have the instrumental, experimental passages, and also later in the album he's more laid back and just jiving with it, and yeah, I think it's a very, very dynamic and cool listen. And his vocals, according to Dan himself in the interview, he said that he just did them in his home, hunched over his computer, like scratch takes, and he didn't realize that those were the takes that would actually end up on the album. And that's something to note. They sound really good on this album, but still a little rough around the edges if you compare it to maybe Kaput or something that has very smooth and slick vocals. But I like that, and I think it's very fitting for the songs on this record. A track to check out is called The Man in Black's Blues. A highlight for me, it's so cool. So, we're here at number 3. And this is the most controversial my list is probably. This entry, Kaput, which is the consensus best Destroyer record. Everyone is mentioning this as their favorite Destroyer album. This was released in 2011, so he referred back to the sophisti pop people from the 80s, mid-80s, like Roxy Music and Brian Ferry, and I guess uh, Steely Dan and stuff like that. You know, the New Romantics also. A lot of references in music that my interests I'm not very interested in. But he made it kind of work for this album. It took a long while because this was the time to make the shift. He went and he closed the book, as I mentioned, with Trouble in Dreams, and now started to react more to music while crafting songs. And it's just a classic. It has, you know, reverbed saxophones and a good mood, and it's uplifting, and it's very commercially appealing, smooth vocals, smooth everything, and excellent songs. It has the sound of the 2010s for some reason, and the irony is that he made something unfashionable be fashionable in the 10s, and for me now it kind of sounds like the zeitgeist of the 2011, which this was released, thinking of bands like Wild Nothing and Small Black and bands like that. You have the shimmery kind of style, and I'm not saying it's dated, but for me I got a bit tired of that sound. But I understand it's a very, very, very good record, and enjoy it still. But it's not going to be my favorite. At the time, I kind of felt that it was a little bit of abandoning all that came before it, but you have to appreciate that's what you do sometimes as an artist, and I grew to like it, of course, very much. It was the one that everyone liked, and for good reasons. I have two more on my list now. I was going a bit back and forth today, trying to pick the number one. And I concluded that this was not it. This is number two, Destroyer's Rubies. Came very close to be my favorite Destroyer album because it's unbelievably good. It started out with a quintessential Destroyer track. It's called The Rubies, and it sums it all up, I think. All the qualities of Destroyer. It's quite a fascinating song with a lot of references to other, musicians and albums and stuff, and his own, and yeah, it's so great. And it's kind of the early type of songs, but just more sonically developed. I think he went in with a band, rehearsed with these songs, and executed, trying to capture the performances of the songs in the studio. And it kind of shows because they have this more relaxed feel. You know, he lets the song breathe a little more, and I think there is some more sincerity on this one and more emotional weight than compared to maybe some of the other albums. But this is not a flawless record, I would say. Listening to it again today. Maybe the songwriting towards the end of the album kind of falters a bit, so that's the reason why it's not my number one anymore. And yeah, but a very excellent Destroyer album, quintessential Destroyer. And this became my favorite at some point, and I've been going back and forth, but it has to be Street Hawk, A Seduction, the 2001 album. So this is what the early Destroyer culminated to. It was all pointing in this direction. So we just said enough with the nonsense and quirkiness. There's a lot of, there's some of it, but it's more a tighter record, a tighter approach to the songwriting. All the lines and lyrics, they're kind of there for a reason, and they're so catchy, and they're so, hooky and great, and it's the songwriting. That's why this is my favorite. It's just, I'm not going to mention any tracks actually, because it just starts and keeps you entertained, and it's lovely all the way through. English music, it's so good. for me, it's just my favorite. I think it's excellent, and yeah, a lot of adjectives. There's not more to say about this. Um, you have to check it out. Check out the exuberance in songwriting, the amazing talent to write the catchy tunes. If you haven't heard Destroyer, maybe begin with Kaput or something, but once you are accustomed to Kaput, you need to know that Destroyer was a lot of things. He went in a lot of directions, a lot of different expressions, and yeah, it has been such a rewarding career to follow. With every release, there's excitement. Yeah, so all in all, this is what I have for the Destroyer list, and I would like to thank you for watching this, and please subscribe if you like to, and that's it for me. So take care.